Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Cecilia, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you've joined us for our next live presentation from IsoEnergy. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you're interested in meeting with IsoEnergy, please click on the Schedule Meetings tab found in the platform navigation bar. You'll be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Tim Gebrook, President, CEO, and Director of IsoEnergy, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol ISENF and on the TSXV under the symbol ISO. Welcome, Tim.
Cecilia, thanks. Appreciate the introduction, and appreciate the opportunity to be here with OTC Markets today. Just maybe jump right into it and give a short presentation, short introduction on IsoEnergy, and certainly happy to answer any questions, as Cecilia mentioned at the end of this. So, for those of you that don't know IsoEnergy, we're a uranium exploration development company. We're headquartered in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and we have a number of great projects up in the northern part of Saskatchewan, in the very prolific uranium area of the Athabasca Basin. So I'll just jump right into it here and get moving on the presentation. Got a disclaimer. Of course, there's some forward-looking statements here, so please take a look at all of our information. It's all posted on our website. As far as background, as I mentioned, we are an uranium exploration development company. We were formed back in 2016. We were spun out from NextGen Energy. So those of you that follow the uranium sector are probably very familiar with NextGen. At that time, they had 5 eastern Athabasca properties, so in sort of the northeastern part of the Athabasca Basin, that they spun out into IsoEnergy. Incredibly difficult period in the market. I've thrown a little little chart on there that has a star at the bottom, and that star is where the company was formed, and really at a low point in the uranium market, which was a tough time to start up a new company, but also a great time to do it if you have the ability to do so. And one of those reasons is we started with 5 properties. We now have more than 20. It was a time when there wasn't much activity going on in the basin in uranium in general, and they were able to do a great job of picking up a lot of high quality projects in the Athabasca. So today we're the beneficiaries of that as things are improving, obviously, in uranium and nuclear in general. We've got a lot of great projects, which I'll walk you through. Out of all these projects, our flagship is the Hurricane Project, and I'll start with that. That is project that we picked up in 2018. We put out an initial resource back in July of last year. This is a project that's 100% owned by IsoEnergy. We bought it in May of 2018 and did an initial hole at the end of a summer program there in July of 2018, and immediately struck mineralization. So IsoEnergy's history, the next 6 programs were really focused on delineating what we found there. You can see some of the drilling highlights, just some incredible world-class grades of uranium on a lot of these drill holes that we did. Upwards of the best drill hole there, 3.5 meters at 74% uranium. So just almost pure pitch blende uranium. You can see on the map the star is the Hurricane deposit. It's on that. It's sort of in the middle of that big orange property, the Laroque East property. It's a big property, and Hurricane sits right on the border there in the middle. So the resource itself, incredibly high grade. It is, in fact, the world's highest grade uranium resource. We have just about 50 million pounds, 48.6 million pounds at 34.5% uranium, which, as anyone that follows not just uranium but any mineral commodity in general, incredible ore grades, and really even out of that, 44 million pounds of that is at 52%. So really on par with any of the world-class deposits and grades that we people that are familiar with the Athabasca are familiar with seeing in that area of the world. a couple more million pounds of inferred, so just over 50 million pounds in general in total. Highly insensitive to cutoff grade. So even at a 10% cutoff grade, which is really something, we retain almost 94% of that ore body. There's a few interesting pieces of it. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but on the screen you've got the plan view of the deposit, and it's sort of the highest grade part of it is that orange, and it's right up against that line that where it says La Rock, that blue line, and that is just the property border. So obviously it's very high grade right up to the border. We don't own the other side of the border. That's an Orano Cameco project called Dawn Lake. We don't control any of that. We do know there is activity and drilling and interest going on the other side to see what's on that other side of the deposit. So potentially, a bigger deposit than just the Hurricane side. But for us, our property, we've got this incredible high grade deposit that we're very fortunate to have. This is just a cross-section view of Hurricane, just to give you a sense of what this really does look like and what kind of deposit it is. It's an unconformity host deposit. There's a couple of really traditionally different kinds of deposits in the basin. You either have a basement hosted, a Rabbit Lake, or NextGen has their incredible Arrow project, which is a basement hosted deposit. Others, the ones in operation, the Cigar Lakes, McArthur Rivers, are unconformity hosted. This is very kind of traditional unconformity, similar to maybe what a Cigar Lake looks like, or a Phoenix if you're familiar with Denison. You can see the long, just sort of that layer, almost that pancake-like layer of high-grade uranium sitting on top of the graphitic basement rock. Almost all of the deposit is sitting in the unconsolidated sandstone, kind of this porous, water-bearing sandstone, and just a very small footprint for a large piece of uranium and an incredibly high grade. So with that, a lot of strategic advantages of Hurricane. Of course, the biggest one again is the high grade. Just anytime you've got grades in any type of mineral, the higher the grade, really, the better it looks, and the better your overall economics can potentially be. 48.6 million pounds at 34.5%. It's shallow, relatively shallow in the basin. You can see the drawing at the bottom gives you a little bit of a comparative view with some of the other deposits and mines over the history of the basin. Cigar Lake, McArthur River are good proxies. They're both deeper than where we are with Hurricane, so it's only to say that depth is not an impediment in the basin. It's actually at a very good, reasonable depth compared to other deposits. Infrastructure, one of the nice things about working in the eastern part of the basin, well, the downside is it's had a lot of activity. So a lot of the mines projects over the course of the history of the basin are found on that eastern side. The benefit, if you can find a new deposit, which we were fortunate to do with Hurricane, is that it benefits from all the infrastructure that's been developed. So we're close to roads, we're close to power. We're only 40 kilometers from Orano's McLean Lake Mill. That is potentially a great advantage. That's the mill that is processing all the feed from Cigar Lake in northern Saskatchewan. It has excess capacity. As Cigar Lake slows down over time, it will have more capacity. So it's a very positive benefit to have a deposit that potentially could go to a mill like that and is close. And there's certainly benefits to both Orano to keep that mill going, and certainly to an IsoEnergy if you can send feed there to be processed. There's no water cover at surface, so those of you that are familiar with the Athabasca area or just northern Saskatchewan in general, as you get past a certain grid line going into northern Saskatchewan, it becomes trees and water, and just a lot of water at surface, lots of lakes. So if you find a deposit that doesn't have water at the surface, it's just one more impediment you don't have to deal with. So that's a big advantage. The jurisdiction itself, can't say enough about how beneficial it is to be in Saskatchewan, Canada. Over the course of past decades, power companies, utilities that buy uranium have always looked very positively at Saskatchewan. It's a stable, secure jurisdiction, and I can tell you, as the world has changed with everything that is happening in Russia and Ukraine, and the geopolitical challenges that we see there. Certainly material coming out of Russia, even challenges of material coming from areas like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, from that part of the world. There is a lot of benefit to having production or a deposit that is located in this part of the world. A lot of innovation. So the innovation is important. I think the history of the basin has progressed with a lot of innovation going on. In the past, MacArthur Cigar, they were very innovative in their time. It's now kind of like the base is to have a mine like MacArthur Cigar that uses underground development, uses freezing, maybe jet boring or raise boring technology like they do. That was unknown a few decades ago. Similarly, a deposit like Hurricane is a little bit smaller, obviously, than MacArthur Cigar, so it doesn't have the capacity to absorb as much infrastructure, maybe all the underground infrastructure, etc., and maintain its economics. So there's actually a lot of work going on to look at other types of mining in the basin that can be done on some of these smaller deposits and still be very economic. Denison's a good example. They're looking to introduce in situ recovery technology from surface using solution mining, so there's no underground development. Orano's got a technology called Sabre, sort of from surface directional drilling using a jet boring technology. So it's just to say there's a lot of technology development going on, and we believe we'll be the beneficiaries of some of that as we look to take Hurricane forward. I mentioned the border with the Cameco project. It's not necessarily a strategic advantage for us, but it certainly makes for an interesting story as we go forward. We'll see what happens on the other side and how is there significant additional ore body on their side, or is it is Hurricane the bulk of it? We don't know, but it'll be interesting to watch that story as it unfolds and how that develops. As far as next steps on Hurricane, we've just been completing a high-level concept study, an internal study, just looking at mining methods, economics to see how we want to move this forward. And coming out of that, we're looking at defining the test work that we require in order to advance that concept study. So really to take us to a stage where you can make a decision around a PEA and moving forward and into that next step. So that's work that's being done and work that we'll be doing over the months to come. That's really the Hurricane story. So the other part of IsoEnergy's story is the exploration side. As I mentioned at the beginning, we've got more than 20 projects, all very high quality projects in the basin. As you can imagine, as we took Hurricane forward, that was the focus for a few years for IsoEnergy. As we've taken that to the next step and start looking more on the development side, we've really turned our exploration resources, our geologists, to these other projects and how we can advance and hopefully become maybe a multi-deposit company organically by doing this exploration. So even last year, 2022, we did almost 19,000 meters of drilling across Laroque East, Geiger, and our Trident property. We've done a lot of geophysical surveying over the last couple of years to set up targets for some of our other projects that are listed here. And this winter, we've just finished up our winter program. We did just about 6,200 meters of diamond drilling, again on part of our Laroque East project, which is the home of Hurricane, but it's a big property. So in other sectors I'll get into, and our Hawk project, as well as ground geophysical surveying on Laroque, Hawk, and Geiger. So just to maybe walk through those three projects we were working on in the winter. The Laroque East, we're really doing some work up in what we call the Kernahan Trend, which is up in the far northeast corner of the property. You can see it on this drawing where it says Kernahan East. We did 6 drill holes, almost 2,000 meters. Really just some systematic step outs along the strike of a previous drill hole. These were really the drill hole that one of the drill holes that we did this year was designed to test previously defined basement alteration, and it intersected some hematite and hydrothermal clay alteration in the basement. And these are things that typically are very proximal to uranium mineralization in the basin. So we found what we were hoping to, which is to get to the next step and to continue to have interest in this property, which will continue to move forward over the next seasons to come. We also did a little bit of ground electromagnetic surveying, and that will also help us set up for drill targets out to more to the west. You can see sort of a blue box there out in that area of the Rockies property. Our Hawk project, this is the first time we've done some drilling on Hawk. We're very excited about it. So we've got at least 10 kilometers of a prospective conductive strike. It's a little deeper than, say, the Hurricane deposit or the Rockies area in general, around 600 to 750 meters, but not, that's more in line with sort of the MacArthur rivers of the world and some of the deposits that are very successful in the basin. We did 5 holes, about 4,200 meters, and really we were testing some of the EM conductors that we identified in some of the work we did in 2022. So did some first pass testing, successfully intersected some graphitic conductors and prospective structures in the southern half of the property, and then we followed up with some additional electromagnetic geophysical surveying in that blue box to the southwest side of the property you see there at the end of the winter program. So that will help set us up very well for the summer and the programs to come. Geiger, we just did some geophysics here over the winter to follow up on some of the drilling that we did in the past summer. So yeah, just continued. We did 6 lines of EM surveying to follow up some drilling results. And in 2022, a drill hole intersected alteration, extending into the 55 meters into the basement. So we've been following up on that. There's been some work in the area. There's a piece of the property that's you can see kind of there's a bit of a gap up top that's owned by Fission. They've done some work there, seen some radioactivity. So there's some good results that we've had and good results in the area that continue to show us a lot of prospectivity with Geiger, and we'll continue to follow up on that. That's sort of the highlights, I guess, of the drill program. Certainly, we've got a lot of other, like I said, we've done a lot of geophysical work that we'll follow up with over the next seasons to come, and slowly get in more and more into some of these other projects. I've just thrown in this one slide, on the market or on nuclear in general. I mean, this is the world that we live in as a uranium exploration developer. Nuclear, for those following the story, obviously this is very relevant to everything we do. The narrative around it is getting more and more positive globally. The market is strengthened, but the story around nuclear, itself is becoming just incredibly strong. It's becoming seen and recognized more by everyone as crucial in the fight against climate change. It's, certainly a positive ESG story when you talk about non-emitting technologies, non-CO2 emitting technologies for energy creation. So you're seeing a lot of reversals in decisions that were made, very arbitrarily to shut down, different uranium reactors in places like California, Michigan, Germany, reversing some of those decisions. Places like the EU starting to really pull nuclear in as part of its solutions going forward on energy. They've become part of the EU taxonomy rulebook, so preferential treatment on the tax treatment of projects that are related to nuclear, which is huge. And you're seeing it here in Saskatchewan for sure, and around the world. Uranium is being brought in as part of critical mineral strategy for a lot of these not just companies but governments and different jurisdictions as part of the whether it's the battery metals, the battery transition, energy transition to batteries, and recognizing that we need to electrify, but we need to have clean energy to support that electrification, and uranium is going to play a huge part in that. So it's great to get that recognition. Certainly geopolitically, things have changed a lot. You see everything going on in Russia. That's done a lot to change the geopolitics around uranium, and really bifurcated the market a little bit, where uranium is getting less and less uranium is coming from Russia into the West. It has been a big supplier and relied on for years, but that's meaning a transition to more reliance on the Western suppliers in the U.S., in Europe, and the recognition that there is going to be not just a need for the existing suppliers to continue to grow their supply, but for new suppliers to come in, and that's where someone like IsoEnergy will play a big role. Just very briefly, lots of strengthening commitments to nuclear by existing and new regimes, whether it's in Poland, Sweden, Finland. France is recommitted in a big way, which is great to see. South Korea and even Japan now starting to bring its reactor fleet back online and make some long-term commitments to nuclear. So China continues to be a huge story, and the U.S. Really, under their Inflation Reduction Act, nuclear is one of the few bipartisan topics in the U.S. these days. It's getting support from both sides and just being recognized as an important piece of the energy transition. And then just the fundamentals. You can't look past the fundamentals and how strong they are. 433 reactors operating in 32 countries, 61 being built. And the big thing that we look at, as uranium suppliers or future suppliers is how much is still left to be bought. And there's 2.3 billion pounds of uranium needed only through 2040. And you've only got, there's about 180-ish million pounds used every year, and there's probably only about 130 being produced. Inventories have been reduced significantly over the last number of years, and so again, more projects are going to be needed, and that's a very good thing for IsoEnergy and other explorers and developers in the sector. Just as quickly on our capital structure, we're in good shape. We did a raise at the end of December. We've got about $13 million in cash, which takes us through very important programs that we just finished in the winter, and will take us through the summer and into next year. Obviously, we're always looking at new opportunities, and so we'll make decisions on cash that we may need down the road, in the future. But right now we're in great shape. Obviously, uranium equities in general have taken a bit of hit just with the general market, but we continue to perform, similar to other equities in the area. And the positive side for me is that just everything in the nuclear area and the uranium market, all the signposts are incredibly positive. There's really nothing that's being seen as a negative these days. So we believe that things are only going to get stronger in the sector. We've got a great team in place. Great CFO that we added last year. Lots of experience in gold, but also in uranium. We just added a new vice president of exploration who we're just ecstatic to have on board, Daryl Clark. Enormous experience across a lot of commodities, including uranium. Was a VP of Cameco's exploration program for a number of years. Managed their programs in Kazakhstan, their operations in Kazakhstan. We were very fortunate that he was looking to get back into the uranium sector and join IsoEnergy and the great team and properties that we have to do work on. So great advisor with Dave Thomas, 40 plus years of uranium exploration experience, especially in the Athabasca Basin. So really a great team and a great team of young geos as well that just set us up very well to do good on our exploration in the months and years to come. That's really it. I'll probably leave it there so I can answer a couple of questions, but just, again, highlights, Hurricane is our flagship, and we're very fortunate to have this, incredibly high grade uranium deposit that provides a lot of exciting, prospects for the company going forward. We're in a location that we couldn't be happier with. Saskatchewan might be the best place to have a uranium project on the planet, not just because of the grades and the quality, but the support of the provincial and the federal governments to take these things forward. Our strategy will pragmatically continue to advance Hurricane as we go forward, and we're also going to progress our exploration projects and these other high quality properties that we have in the portfolio. Again, we've been building over the last couple of years. Our team has never been stronger. Very excited about the people we have in place, and our structure is great. We get a lot of support. We're very fortunate to have NextGen. There's still roughly a 50% shareholder, and not just financially, it's not just good, but they provide a lot of support strategically, administratively, anything that we need. We can always turn to them and get some help, which is this is a huge advantage for a company like IsoEnergy. So that's really it. These are some main contacts. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, you can reach out anytime. That's my email. That's my direct number. You can also just go to the website and there's contact details on there. And we got a few minutes, so I'll maybe switch over and try to run the questions here and see what we've got coming on here. Yeah, first question is, why did prior owners walk away from our properties? And it's a great question, and it really goes back to that first slide, or one of the first slides I had, where you showed where the company was created at what time. It was really a time, 2016. Fukushima had happened. The market was really, really down. There was nothing going on. Cameco was slowing down production, turning projects off. Other producers were turning projects off. There had been, work going on in the basin. There was no money. Money had dried up, and so people, even the ones that had good projects, there was no money to do anything with these projects, and they walked away from them. And so, it's classic corporate development. If the time you want to get into any project or buy anything is when the price is low. Unfortunately, it's always the time when it's hardest to do that because the money isn't there. Fortunately, we had a great, the fact that we came out of NextGen, they had a great team, they had access to capital, and they were able to do it at a time when others needed to walk away. So, and they believed in the story, right? They believed in the long-term future of uranium. They knew that it was a blip and that they knew that things were going to get better. So they had great belief in that. So they invested in building IsoEnergy, picking up those properties, and obviously it's worked out very well. What are your takeaways from the winter drilling? Yeah, look, we had a great program. You don't hit the new deposit every time, but everything we wanted to accomplish, we did. So on Kernahan, we had some good results that have given us some good views onto some of the additional work we want to do at Kernahan and the next steps, and even some follow-up drilling that we'll want to do this summer. And on Hawk, like I said, we got some alterations and some structures that we found that, given it was our first pass of drilling on that property, is exactly what we were hoping to see, which is, supporting our thesis that this looks like a very prospective property. It pushed us to do the additional geophysical works this winter in order to make sure that we're properly set up with good targets for the summer. So, yeah, it was a good program of learning more about those projects and getting the right feedback from the drill results that give us good confidence to move forward with additional work there. That is, let me just see here. Can you speak to your capital needs for 23-24 projects? Yeah. So right now, like I said, we're in good shape for this year to get through the summer program. We're still just in the process of developing that. We've got the team in the office this week doing some strategy sessions, working around exactly what that program is going to look like. So we'll give more information on that shortly. But we've got all the capital we need there. Like I said, we're always looking at other projects or growing the company. So if other things come up where we need capital, I think we're in a good position to go to the markets if we need to. We don't need to at the moment, but we certainly, if other projects come to fruition or we want to grow the work we're doing, we've had good access to capital in the past. When we raised money last winter, we had good support from NextGen. They wanted to continue to maintain their ownership, so they contributed. We had good access to charitable flow through from a number of different investors. We did another debenture with Warren Gilman and his company, who supported us strategically in the past, and we were very happy to have him contribute as well. I think that speaks very, very well to the work we're doing and the continued support that we get from Queens Road Capital. So yeah, the capital seems to be there. Seems to be a lot of interest in the sector in uranium. So and I think IsoEnergy really is a unique story. There's not, we've got a lot of good developers. NextGen's obviously developing the Arrow project. Denison's got their Wheeler project they're taking forward, and then you've got some smaller juniors that are looking for that big discovery, and you've got very few companies like ISO that have found a great discovery over the last number of years, and so it puts us in a very unique position, I think, with a world-class deposit and a world-class team, I believe, with a lot of other projects to do work on. It really sets us up well for the future. So I think that takes us right to 30 minutes, and unless I'm wrong, I think that's our cutoff time, and so I'll end it there. And just, yeah, again, just thank everybody for their time. Appreciate your interest in IsoEnergy. Again, reach out anytime. The management contacts you see in the presentation, they're happy to talk to anyone that wants to. And yeah, I just appreciate the opportunity by OTC Markets.